the new best thing, better than you've ever seen. I'm the new best thing, I'm gonna be the king. I bring that ching, ching, ching. Yeah, I'm the new best thing, I'm the new best thing.
Hello and welcome back to Hedera Forum. We're glad you could join us for this, our 20th episode. Hard to believe that we've been able to get 20 episodes in the books already. So congrats, Brandon. Thanks for taking this journey with me, and had a lot of great guests on. And today's episode is no exception. We are very happy to welcome in Mr. Azeem Malik. He is the Vice President of Global Business Development for Hedera. Hello, Azeem. How are you?
Hey guys, it's a pleasure to be here. I know it's been a long time coming, but we're glad to be on episode number 20.
Thank you very much for taking the time for Hedera Forum. The community definitely appreciates it. And Brandon and I have prepared some questions that we think are very topical, and we're looking forward to getting started. So we'll just jump right in. For the community members who may not be familiar, could you just introduce yourself and provide some background as to your pre-Hedera experiences and how you came to work with Hedera?
Yeah, absolutely. So I lead the business development team at Hedera. We're a global group. We've got about 9 people right now all over the world. There's 3 in the US, including myself. There's 2 in Europe, 1 individual who covers the Middle East and India. And we have 3 right now in Asia Pacific. So me personally, I started my career way back in the day in banking and financial services, and after business school, I joined IBM, where for several years I was on the corporate M&A team and led kind of the diligence and the negotiation around a number of different IBM acquisitions in cloud and middleware and services, and also helped drive 3 of the largest divestitures in the company's history: the x86 server sale, the chip sale, and the business process outsourcing sale. So that's really where I got my deal chops at IBM. And then in about 2015, I joined IBM Watson when that unit was newly formed, and helped expand some early business development activity there, including the expansion into healthcare through Watson Health. And then when IBM formed its blockchain unit, I came on to help them build out some of the early verticals, some of the early consortia that they had invested in, including IBM Food Trust, which is the food supply chain consortium with Walmart and a number of other food companies like Tyson and Dole and Driscoll and Unilever and several others. And back then we called this group the Governing Foundation. So that was my first experience in recruiting and helping make successful these large global enterprises around a specific mission. It was also right around that time that I first started learning about Bitcoin and crypto in 2017, and really right around then I kind of hit a personal inflection point. My wife and I had our first child, and I was reevaluating a number of things in my life and career. I'd been working at large companies my whole career, and all the stuff that goes into working for a large company. I had never been in a startup, and seeing all the innovation and excitement around DLT was like irresistible at the time. So I had to honestly ask myself, where is the innovation of the future going to come from? Because I want to be where that is. So I left IBM in about 2018, and I joined an enterprise DLT startup called Digital Asset, where I was hired to help them. They had been focused on financial market infrastructures, exchanges. I had asked them to help. They had asked me to help grow them into some different verticals. And while I only spent a little bit less than a year there, I learned a lot about the startup world. What works, what doesn't work, and that step in the journey was a really important one for me. And that's when I came upon Hedera. They'd already been on my radar, from the splash in 17 and 18, but that vision that enterprise adoption will take place on public networks, that was really compelling for me when I first heard that, because I had spent years in the private permission space and seen the value, but also seen the limitations and the scaling issues and the barriers to adoption and getting all these companies to agree on governance issues and data permissioning and on and on. And here Hedera was saying, the future of enterprise adoption is going to be on public networks. And by the way, if you're building on private DLT, you're going to run into some issues. So here we'll allow you to enjoy this hybrid approach by extending the utility of your private networks using public network consensus through HCS. And that message, resonated with me instantly. So I'll never forget the summer of 2019. I met Jordan in that really nice Starbucks near our old office in the Meatpacking district in New York. And I think we were scheduled to go for 30 minutes. We ended up talking for almost 2 hours. And I remember leaving that meeting thinking, I've got to work for this guy. I have to work for this company. And the rest is history, as they say. Just on a personal level, just my own kind of career evolution. When I started my career in banking, I saw the heyday before the Great Recession, and then I was in that industry through the Great Recession. I saw big tech through the rise of Web 2.0. And so, both of those experiences showed me, firsthand the consequences of having centralized models and these, perverse incentives and this regulatory capture and overall just, disillusioning experiences. So what blockchain and crypto offer is real, right? Because it's all out there for you to see. And this paradigm shift is real. And it has the potential to really fundamentally disrupt the way that business is done and how we live our lives. So we're in the very, very early stages. I'm just glad to be a part of it alongside the team and this awesome community that we have. And, I tell people, this is the coolest job I've ever had. I literally run to work in the morning. Sometimes I pinch myself just thinking about it. We're working, 12, 14-hour days, which I don't encourage, but, it doesn't feel like work to us. There's a sense of urgency and a sense of excitement and a sense of opportunity that this moment, is really unique and special. So, that kind of drives every single one of us every day.
That is exciting. So, Azeem, you mentioned you're, the VP in charge of business development. That's a role you took over from somebody you just mentioned, Jordan Freed. I'm sure this position is always developing. Can you remind us what you're responsible for and how the position has developed over the years?
Yeah. So big shoes to fill, of course. Jordan really defined what business development at Hedera needed to be to turn from a wild, ambitious idea to something that was real. Let's go recruit some of the top companies in the world to sit on the council of our startup. And that requires vision. It requires a true belief and conviction in the mission and the ability to execute on that. So I think he did an excellent job in getting us to where we needed to be. And the focus over the past 5 months since that has really been to bring the team together, to hone in on a few focus areas where we think we have the best chance to drive the network success, and to continue to build out the team and really assemble a world-class kind of best-in-industry BD team, which I think we have. So, in terms of what the team does, we're still doing some of the same things. We're still recruiting council members. We're still driving network utilization. We're still creating an ecosystem and on and off ramps for the network. But I think the different folks on the team now have settled into specific skill sets and focus areas. And I think that's allowed people to take ownership around certain verticals, but also give us the flexibility to pursue things, opportunistically as they arise. We've talked about this dynamic for a bunch of times over the past few years, right? Like for an industry agnostic, truly horizontal network, how do you make sure the team is focused? And in the early days of business development at Hedera, that was very much all of us just had our own fishing nets and we all go fishing and see what we can catch type of approach. And that was probably what made the most sense at the time, early on. But I think over the past few months, and I'm sure you're seeing this and we're all seeing this, there's so much noise. There's so many signals. There's so many different things going on that can be distracting. And so we've come up with a hypothesis that there are certain focus areas that we're well positioned to succeed at that will drive the success of our network. And let's place some bets there. Let's make some investments there. So in terms of the team and the role, it's really about the team, right? It's not about the role. It's about how the team's coming together and in these different focus areas. So for example, I'll talk about our play in retail a little bit more through the Coupon Bureau and beyond, but I've been leading that work. Joining me in the US is Wes Geisenberger, who joined us in 2019 from Oracle. He's been leading our efforts around sustainability and our on-ramp strategy. Michał Benedikczynski, who's been with us now for 6 months. He's focused on financial services, partnerships, stablecoin, payment, and our approach to banks. Alex Godwin, who you may or may not have had on the forum already. He's been with Hedera, I think, since 2017. He's based out of Amsterdam. He's really helped bring on several council members. He's focused on our enterprise B2B strategy, right? How do we integrate with the enterprise stack? Alex Russman, who's based out of Berlin. He just joined us a few months ago from Engine, where he led strategic partnerships, and he's really come in and helped us game plan a strategy around virtual economies, metaverses, NFTs, gaming, fashion, social, that area. We just hired another individual, Vignesh Raja, who's based out of Dubai. He joined us from Wipro, and he's going to help us expand our presence in the Gulf markets and in India. And so he has relationships in both of these areas with enterprises and governments and regulators and startups in those regions. In APAC, Sammy Mia, he's based out of Tokyo. He's been heading our effort there and managing our relationships with LG and Shinhan and Nomura. And he's been really successful in growing our traction in the region and getting our message out there. And then Alice Kim, she's based out of Seoul as well. She's been critical in managing and growing some of our most important relationships in Korea and now the region more broadly. And then finally, the newest member of the team who just joined us yesterday is Sabrina Tachjian, who was previously head of blockchain investments at Line. And so she brings 8 years of experience in the Korean tech industry and will really bring a unique perspective to the team. And she's also based in Seoul. So, it's really about our team and how it's coming together. And the team will change in the coming months. Some folks will roll off, others will join. We're hiring for a number of different roles, but we'll continue to grow and evolve, over time as a group. In terms of the position itself, that's also going to develop as the network and the industry matures. I think we all know that this technology has the ability to be really disruptive, but I don't think any of us fully understand what this can really become. And this, it kind of has that, early 1990s pre-internet feel when people were really trying to understand how disruptive, the internet could become. So yeah, from a BD standpoint, we'll continue to recruit council members, help drive the use of the network from leading applications, build out that infrastructure, create that defensibility, that moat, that foundation that will ensure the long-term sustainability of the network. And that's where our focus is going to be for the foreseeable future.
Wow, that team sounds like it's as diversified as the council itself. It's good stuff.
It is, yeah, it is, and it's growing, and it's exciting. It's different folks with different perspectives, different experiences coming together.
Exciting.
Well, thank you, Azeem. That leads us nicely into our next question. Building out the council seems a daunting task. You just touched on that. However, Hedera has thus far been able to attract some highly respected large enterprises to join the stewardship of this technology. Given that Hedera has been able to outperform many expectations with regard to filling out the council initially, are there any insights you can offer with regard to potential areas the council could be strengthened? An example might be adding more geographical or business sector diversity.
Yeah, great question. It is a daunting task, but one that feels very rewarding, if we're able to be successful, because no one in the industry is doing it the way we're doing it, with this approach around truly decentralized, leaderless governance from some of the most important institutions in the world. So you're right, it does take time. It takes time to make the enterprise sale, to identify the right entry points, to identify the key stakeholders, to tell a story that resonates and makes folks at these organizations feel like they're part of something. And we've been pleased with the pace of progress around filling out the council. We've been announcing one council member a month now for the past 5 months, and we don't expect that pace to slow down anytime soon. In terms of the diversification, we do have opportunities to get better, absolutely. I think from a geographic perspective, I think we're doing well. Out of the 20 council members, I believe something like 15 are not headquartered in the US. So we've got 5 in North America, we have 1 in South America, we have 1 in Africa, I think 5 in Europe, 1 in Australia, 4 in Asia Pacific, and 2 in India, and 1 in the Middle East. And we have nodes running on 6 continents. So I think that geographic mix is something we're going to look to maintain over time as we get to 39. I'd say in terms of industry representation, there are definitely some industries where we're better represented than others. Telco comes to mind. We have, I think, 3 telcos on the council, Deutsche Telekom, Tata Communications, and Zain Group. Financial services / payments is an area where we've been seeing a lot of traction, FIS and FPOS on payments, Nomura, Standard Bank, and Shinhan Bank from the banking world. And this makes sense, right? This is where the market is right now. When you think about industries that are being disrupted right now, payments being an obvious one. And then of course, with DeFi, banking and other traditional financial services are happening right now on distributed ledgers. So I anticipate that we'll continue to get interest from this space. And at some point, members of the council will have to make a decision on how we begin to think about, potentially capping representation in any one industry. I think there are a few industries on the council that are maybe not as well represented that we're trying to change. So, companies in the sports and media and entertainment space are all showing interest in these, new kind of virtual economies, social tokens, creator tokens, new types of models for artists and content creators to get paid, virtual worlds, metaverses. So I think sports, media, and entertainment and gaming are like converging to an extent, and we're making some investments there that will accelerate our presence for council membership and bring on councils that can represent those industries. I think our work in sustainability is interesting. We should be bringing more energy companies onto the council. We've already got EDF, who's one of the 5 largest public utilities in the world. 2 other industries that I'm focused on where we don't have representation are healthcare and insurance. And for these, we're talking to a number of different companies. And again, this is expected, right? Each of these industries has their unique challenges. With healthcare, there's the issue of personal data, or PII. And there are certain inefficiencies and the bureaucratic nature of how that industry moves, especially from an IT perspective, although there are signs that might be changing. And it's an industry that's kind of like riddled or entrenched with certain industry interests and different types of regulatory capture. So that's the challenge there, but I think that's a matter of time. And then insurance, right? This one I love, because when I first really came to understand enterprise blockchain and the potential applications, insurance was one area I thought would be the most disruptive, because having trusted on-chain reliable data can fundamentally allow you to kind of reprice risk as you know it. And for the last few years, insurance has moved a little slowly. Nobody has wanted to be first. In some cases, some of the larger insurers and reinsurers and brokers have moved together in organizations like B3I and the risk stream from the institutes. And this industry has a similar challenge, right? There's a bunch of different competing interests, but I do think it's a matter of time whether real innovation comes from within or comes from without, from the outside. There's also an opportunity to bring more direct to consumer companies in general. And I think that also makes sense, because the real kind of, killer direct to consumer use cases aren't here yet, but they're coming. And with our success in retail and in a few other areas, I think that, that's also a matter of time. And then finally, I think it makes a lot of sense to be bringing on a few more universities and NGOs and kind of nonprofit type institutions to the council as well.
Any thoughts on automotive? I know that's another one. We do have a manufacturer in Boeing, but automotive has been one that the community has been interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. Transportation itself, right, we'll see a lot of changes, and we see the automotive companies starting to think about what the future looks like. So absolutely.
All right. Well, good stuff. And it's been about almost a month since the last council member. So hopefully we'll see one coming up here pretty soon.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right. So rumor has it that you're the main team member that was responsible for bringing on pretty much the crown jewel of the Hedera Council, Google. I know they're probably all your kids. You can't pick your favorite, but it's one that's brought up a fair amount. So what was the process like for onboarding Google, and what's their involvement been like since?
Yeah, that's funny. That's the first thought I had. They're all crown jewels, right? We work with them all and treat them all equally. But yeah, no, Google's been a great partner, and the process and the experience around recruiting Google was interesting, and it was a lot of fun actually. It was really around the latter half of 2019. We were able to form some close relationships with people on the GCP, the Google Cloud Platform account teams that just happened to be very forward-looking and thinking big picture about the opportunity for GCP when it came to providing the infrastructure and the services for this new wave of DLT-related computing. So we were really fortunate. We were able to get in front of the right decision makers at GCP, and specifically the CEO of GCP, who was relatively new at the time, Thomas Kurian, or TK as he's known, who was hired by Google from Oracle, where he spent 20 years building out their enterprise business. And he came to GCP to kind of help bolster their presence in the enterprise market and close the gap between where GCP was from a market share perspective versus the other cloud services providers. So we had the opportunity to meet him in person before COVID, which was really cool. And he understood almost immediately what we were trying to do, the value of Hedera, and what this opportunity can mean for GCP. And that's how it started. But during 2020, it was really great to see Google made a number of really great hires onto the team to help build out a strategy in blockchain and DLT. And we've been able to, we've been lucky enough to kind of cultivate really good relationships with the team that they formed there and position ourselves as a trusted partner, for this technology. And also Google knows us, right? They're part owners in the LLC. They're active in our governance. They know our network well. So I think that helps create that trust. So there's a lot of momentum right now at Google. There's not much else I can say, unfortunately, other than we're very pleased with the way that the Google partnership is going and really enthusiastic about where the partnership can go.
Well, I like the way that sounds.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. All right, let's transition to a little bit of a different topic here. There has been some FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt from sources outside the ecosystem with regard to centralization, or the theory around centralization. Brandon and I have discussed this in the past and offered our thoughts on it. I'd be interested to know how you land on this topic. And as a follow-up, could you help viewers understand, you just touched on it, the legal agreement in place between Hedera and the council members, and that actually means in defining the council members as owners of Hedera. And I think a lot of community members might not really understand how that works.
Yeah, that's a great point. So in terms of the FUD around centralization, there's two different ways that we think about decentralization. One is around governance. Are you decentralized by industry and geography and term limit? And then two is around the number of nodes that are voting on the order of transactions. So let me just start with the first point around governance. When you look at other layer ones, you'll find governance models that aren't really decentralized, right? I mean, governance will either rest with a handful of software developers or a few clusters a cluster of mining farms, where governing power is concentrated with entities, with a select few entities that you don't know or know necessarily what their motives are. So for this reason, many networks don't really have real decentralized governance. When you think about what a governance model needs to look like or what it needs to optimize for, there's a couple things. There's trust, and there's the ability to make complex decisions. And so there's a number of different models you can look at that kind of balance these two. So one of them is anarchy. You could have an anarchy model where there's low trust and there's a very low ability to make complex decisions. So that's not a good option. Let's throw that one out. You could have a dictator, right? Where the dictator is good and capable. Not all dictators are good and capable, but let's say this dictator is good. The dictator has the ability to make complex decisions, but there's low trust because there's no way to check the decisions of that dictator. On the total other end of the spectrum, there is a direct democracy where the whole community gets to vote on decisions, and you have high trust that way because stakeholders feel like their voices are being heard. But you don't have the ability to make complex decisions. There's a lot of inefficiencies with that model. We've also seen these new, on-chain governance models gain popularity, but there you run the risk of people coming in and buying all the tokens and taking an outsized share of the governance power. So that doesn't really lead to decentralized governance. So what we found also in practice, not just in theory, is that it's really a representative democracy, or in our case, a set of experts that form a council, that from a governance standpoint gives you that trust because you've got, these global international brands that have multi-billion-dollar brand values to protect, right? So there's trust and that ability to make complex decisions because that's why they're here in the first place. They know what they're talking about and they're building on the network. And so that's why we have the governing model that we do. And it's not opaque like other networks. We're very transparent. We have a leaderless, one council member, one vote structure. And we put all the minutes from our council meetings on our website. So from a governance standpoint, we're not centralized, and you can see proof of that in action. On the second point around node operation, what's more important than the actual number of nodes on the network is who has control over those nodes. You could have 1 million nodes on the network, but if who controls those nodes is just a few different entities, then it doesn't really matter that you have 1 million, right? So for Hedera to have each council member run one mainnet node, each in different environments, this was a strategic decision to bootstrap the network and build trust in this enterprise-grade technology and this network around it. And that's why the governing council members run mainnet nodes for the time being. And not only is this strategic, it's critical for the security of the network. And Lehman has articulated that many times about what our path to decentralization looks like. So we're going to end up in a similar place. We're just taking a different path that we believe is going to pay off as we get to our destination. When I hear about that centralization, comment, I'd also argue that instead of looking at it as centralized versus decentralized, I think about it as transparent governance versus opaque governance. And because it's really when a network's governance is opaque that you start to see centralization emerge. We see it with many other networks, some of the large layer ones. Even Ethereum, which just went through the Berlin hard fork a few weeks ago. We saw the Open Ethereum client go down, shut down, I think 15% of the nodes on the network. No one power failure is going to bring down 15% of nodes on the Hedera network. And as we continue to bring on more council members, we're going to continue to add more mainnet nodes. In between now and when we're fully permissionless, we'll be allowing community nodes to participate in consensus. So the number of leaderless nodes participating in the consensus process will continue to grow without any entity or set of entities being able to control the network. So I'd say it's because of our transparent governance that we have a model that is decentralized and less prone to shut down than other networks that have more nodes. The question about it was council ownership, right? The LLC agreement. Yes. Yeah. So the question about ownership, the actual agreement that council members signed to join the council is actually available on our website for everyone to see. You can go to hedera.com/council. So you can go through the term. You scroll down; it's near the bottom. You can go through the terms, what each council member ultimately agrees to, and every single one of them signs the same agreement. There's no editing this section or deleting that section. Every council member joins on a level playing field. There's no special treatment. The way the agreement is written is that because the council is structured as a limited liability corporation, the agreement lays out what that liability is and the roles and responsibilities of the different council member. And each council member is obligated to not only run a Hedera mainnet node, but effectively become a part owner of the LLC. So if we have 20 council members today, they now each own a 5% membership interest in the LLC. And once we get to 39, that will be 1/39 or something like 2.6%. And what that ownership is, it's in the form of a non-financial membership interest. So it's not a trivial commitment, right? The interest is actually something that shows up in a company's corporate balance sheet. And this is why, as part of the council recruitment process, in legal review, we go up through corporate development teams at some of these companies. So there is actual skin in the game from an ownership standpoint. It's no small feat. I also just want to mention, what's important is the role of the council, and not just in the context of governing the Hedera network, but what this approach means for the industry and kind of this new era, of computing that we're entering. To highlight how unique this approach is, and no one else in the market is doing it quite the way we're doing it, if you listen to some of the other projects in the space, and if you listen to the loud voices in their respective communities, and you play out their visions for the future, you come to realize that, there's no future for enterprises in that vision, as we know them, and in some cases, even governments. And while that might appeal to the romantics in all of us, that's not exactly pragmatic. So instead, why don't we actually leverage the labor and the capital and the IP and the data and the distribution capabilities of the Fortune 500 and enterprises all over the world? Why don't we bring them together on a council of governors and collectively define what the enterprise of the future looks like, with certain non-negotiable requirements that Web 3.0 is going to demand. And among them are privacy and censorship resistance and self-sovereignty and giving users control of their own data. And whoever can deliver those at scale will succeed, right? And I think companies get that, because what made you a $1 trillion company in Web 2.0 is not the same thing that's going to make you a $10 trillion company in Web 3.0. And as the council grows, you're seeing this happen, cross-council collaboration, not only on ideas, but on use cases, the exploration of new business models. So as the network continues to mature and the council continues to grow, Hedera will become that place where enterprises come to walk into Web 3.0 should they choose to. And, we're going to be here with open arms.
while at the same time leveraging those corporations to build a platform that's as useful for small developers and small users as well.
That's correct.
Let me ask you a quick follow-up, Azeem, and this is just something that I've seen in the community, and people have been sort of discussing as a thought experiment. Could it potentially make sense in the future that the community itself could be 1/39th of governance, and that the community could potentially spin up a foundation and maybe democratically elect a small body of individuals to sort of act as the community's eyes and ears on the council, and sort of give a little bit more to the small fish, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. Ideas like that have been talked about, and I think that's the direction that ultimately we're going to go in. And you know, I talk a lot about the enterprise, right? Because that's kind of a unique approach, but it's really the governance and the sound active governance from trusted institutions that allows the network to be a valuable place for developers and for dApps and for small and medium-sized businesses and other startups to come and want to build, you know, for all of those reasons. So it's not just an enterprise network, it's an enterprise grade network. But ultimately, you know, in terms of the approach, it's defining what that company of the future looks like in Web 3.0.
Thanks, Azeem.
All right. So what are some of the currently announced use cases you're most excited about, and why? And you know what? That's a little bit too limited. Let's spread that out a little bit. Not just currently announced use cases, but potential use cases for the future. I know I've heard things about micropayments and social media and CBDCs and gaming, with Yat talking about how a big brand might be getting involved with Animoca brands. So just pretty much leave it an open canvas. Any use case that you're most excited about?
Yeah, there's so many that I'm excited about. You know, the more I learn about, I was just in a session talking about this the other day. The more I learn about Atma, which is Avery Dennison's connected product cloud that's going to assign unique digital IDs and record, you know, item level events in across different, you know, product-based supply chains. That one gets very interesting. The work that DLA Piper is doing with Toko around asset tokenization for real estate and art and really anything else, that's very interesting. Basically, everything that FPOS is doing is exciting. I feel like every week Rob comes out with something that's just really cool. Galaxy, which is Spencer Dinwiddie's platform for creators, that's really cool. It is something that touches the consumer. I'm excited about that. And there's many others, but let me talk about three in particular that you know, I'm personally excited about, and they're not necessarily around any specific use cases, but they're just opportunities and you know, potential broader plays where I think we've got a good story and we're well positioned. The first one is in retail, and that one was really made possible by our friends at the Coupon Bureau. And I know we've been talking about this use case for a while because it's really cool, right? The coupon ecosystem in the US is you know, has been fundamentally broken. It's been siloed. The largest coupon issuers like Procter & Gamble lose millions, tens of millions of dollars a year on fraud and don't know anything about who's redeeming their offers. And on the other side, retailers have to wait in some cases 45, 60 days to get paid back for the coupons they accept. So the industry came together and formed this nonprofit entity called the Coupon Bureau. And this entity's mandate was to be the central repository for all the coupons in the US ecosystem. So they went ahead and worked with GS1, the global standards body, to essentially define and issue a new standard for all of the coupons in the US called the 8112 standard. And when this new standard gains enough adoption across US retailers, meaning they're integrated to accept 8112 offers, the old standard, the 8110, is going to be sunset. So we're not far off from a point where every single coupon in the US will be on 8112 and flowing through the Coupon Bureau. And about a year and a half ago, to their credit, Brandy and Jay from the Coupon Bureau came to Hedera and said, you know, we don't want to be a central database and have people in the ecosystem think we're doing Procter & Gamble's bidding or doing Walmart's bidding or anybody else for that matter. We want to provide a data integrity and trust layer so that any third party in real time can verify that the data, the registration data, the modification data, the deletion data, the redemption data around the coupon lifecycle, that data is from the source and hasn't been tampered with. And Hedera is the only network that can process that level of throughput. You know, I think we're talking something like 250 billion coupons issued every year in the US. And by the way, this is a model that can be taken to any country where there's a GS1 office. So we expect 2021 to be the year of retailer adoption to the new standard. And by the end of the year, most US retailers will be onboarded to the new standard, and all coupon lifecycle events will be flowing through the Coupon Bureau and HCS. However, that's just the tip of the iceberg, because now if you're at the point of sale, there's more you can do besides just offers. There's age verification, there's lottery, there's digital receipts. If you think of the point of sale as like an app store, and offers or coupons is just one of those apps, what else can you throw in there, right? So we're working with partners to build that out. Taking that even further, if you think about coupons or gift cards or loyalty programs or rewards programs or smart incentives or rebates, what's the one thing they all have in common? They're payments or value flowing from one entity to another. And if you think about, there are literally like trillions of dollars of value that are locked in these silos. Why is it that I didn't get on a plane from April of last year to December of last year, and I've got a ton of Delta miles? Why couldn't I have spent those at Walmart or buying things that I needed? So by introducing a data integrity layer and tokenizing some of these value exchange flows, you're able to knock down some of these silos and mutualize that infrastructure. And that's really one of the promises of DLT, is mutualizing that infrastructure and then creating these new economies and these new markets and these new business models on top of that.
Real quick, Azeem.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask. So with Coupon Bureau, we saw the first coupon was scanned back in February. It looks like it was a cold Houston day or something along those lines. We kind of expected, I think, in the community that the transaction volume would go up fairly quickly from there. But we still haven't seen it in the top contributors to the Hedera network. When do you think we might start to see some scale from Coupon Bureau?
Yeah, I think we're expecting some of the large tier 1 retailers to get onboarded over the next few months. So I think over the course of 2021, you're going to start seeing those transaction volumes come through.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah. And in some of the additional stuff we're doing, around retail that I just mentioned. So the second area, which is really exciting, is around sustainability, or what's known as ESG, environmental, social, and governance. And this is an important topic that all of us can relate to because we all inhabit this planet, right? Like everybody gets this topic, and this is becoming a focus area for everyone, not just power companies or energy companies. Everyone is interested in this. We see company after company announcing goals around carbon neutrality and different green initiatives, and even investors, institutional investors are allocating dollars to ESG initiatives in the form of, mandatory exposure. You've got to have 10 or 20% of your portfolio allocated to these types of initiatives. So as we start to appreciate, the vision we laid out when we launched HTS, that everything of value or any asset whose value can be represented digitally or securely can be tokenized, we can apply that to the world of renewable energy credits and carbon offsets. And there's a lot of value in automating the creation of these tokenized assets. And for buyers, large buyers that need to buy offsets, having the provenance and being able to verify where the credits came from and how that energy was generated, that's very valuable, because today the largest buyers don't have that level of visibility. And it's also the unique combination of our services, which positions us nicely for this use case. So think about, a meter takes a measurement, right? So the consensus service can record that immutable proof of measurement, which can then trigger the automatic creation of a tokenized asset. Let's say it's a tokenized renewable energy credit. And it's the fairness properties of Hashgraph that allow for, the democratization of participation in these markets, right? If Brandon, you put a solar panel on top of your roof and you want to participate in the rec market, the big utility down the street can't front run you or censor you or delay you, because we offer fair access and fair timestamps and fair order and fair fees. And so we have multiple council members that are excited about renewable energy credits, carbon offsets, and we're working together with them around these sustainability initiatives. We have more than a handful of applications working in this space on defining and tokenizing, credits and offsets on HTS based on the Inner Work Alliance sustainability business working group that we've been very involved in, that are kind of defining those standards for the future. So that one I'm really excited about. Let me give a third, and this one is more. We've been getting some questions in the community around Cbdc and specifically our partnership with MTech, and I'm happy to talk about that. Let me just first start by talking about the unique value proposition that Hedera brings to CBDCs. So CBDCs are going to be built and they're going to be customized for specific monetary authorities in different jurisdictions around the world. And these authorities are going to have their own requirements around data privacy and other type of operating requirements. And so Hedera, through HCS, gives those monetary authorities to build their own customized CBDC networks for their countries, operated by permission parties in their jurisdiction, protecting user privacy, at that layer, while leveraging the global ordering service, HCS for consensus and enabling that interoperability between networks. And of course, by leveraging HCS, you get the high throughput and the security assurances that Hedera provides. And so specifically around MTech, their approach has been interesting. Their founder and CEO, Carmel Cadet, I've known her for a few years. I worked with her at IBM, at blockchain. The way she's positioned MTech has really been around financial inclusion, specifically in emerging markets. So we all saw the interest in financial inclusion when COVID first hit. You remember, stimulus checks, unbanked, and the need for a better kind of financial market infrastructure was pretty obvious during COVID. So their vision has been to create a digital cash infrastructure that kind of reimagines cash with central banks as they consider using DLT in order to close economic gaps in these developed and emerging markets. I think MTech focuses on some of the African nations and the Caribbean nations. So Hedera is going to commit with MTech investments in emerging market development, increasing the skills and knowledge in DLT and Hedera specifically. MTech as an entity builds solutions designed for fintechs and central banks. So they built a regulatory sandbox platform for fintechs that want to go to market and want access to central banks in markets across Africa and the Caribbean. And this gives central banks the ability to kind of collaborate seamlessly with fintechs in the respective jurisdictions and encourage innovation in these ecosystems. MTech will be integrating the token service and the consensus service into this regulatory sandbox offering. And they also have a CBDC offering that we're working with them around different potential paths there. And what we like about MTech is they've made a good amount of progress in a short amount of time, specifically with the Bank of Ghana as a customer for the sandbox, and with the Bank of Bahamas around CBDC. And they continue to make more progress. So we're looking forward to what this partnership can become.
CBDCs get pretty much everybody in the community excited. I think it's a great innovation, and we knew it was going to come eventually, and it's great that Hedera is getting involved.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I've got an interesting one here for you, Azeem. We had Manson Lehman on to celebrate the anniversary of open access not too long ago, and one of the comments that stood out to me after rewatching the episode was something that Lehman said. And he indicated that smaller startups may be more likely to raise awareness for their respective project or use case, wherein some of the larger enterprises operate in stealth for good reason, I would imagine. What are your thoughts around this theory, and what, if any, insight can you share with regard to some of the larger members of the council and use cases they might be exploring?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree with Lehman on this. I think he makes a good observation. Startups, they want to get the word out. They want to market, they want to create awareness. And for many startups, building on Hedera is, that's the point, is building on our network and leveraging the power of the technology and the governance and so on. So it makes sense that you would hear more from startups at these initial stages. Enterprises just take longer, right? We talked about that, identifying the right people, expanding our reach within the organization, understanding who the key stakeholders are. But I would say, confidently that almost every one of our council members today has either built something that's on its way to production, is building something, or is seriously considering building something, getting it on the roadmap item. And that's really exciting. And as interest from companies grows that want to join the council, we've really started to encourage prospective council candidates to come with a use case. And they have been. And you can look at the last few council announcements, FPOS, Standard Bank, EDF, and Shinhan. There were references in each of those announcements to potential things that each one of them could be doing on the network. in terms of the larger council members, there are some really, interesting use cases being explored. And we help our council members through this process. Last fall, we actually set up a new function within Hedera called the Council Success Management function, where each one of the BD reps manages like 2 to 3 and sometimes more council relationships, and is a big part of encouraging adoption and use cases. And so we provide that level of service and care for council members to see use cases through from the ideation phase all the way to the production phase.
Good stuff. All right. So, we've been talking about all the positive things about Hedera. What do you think some of the biggest challenges, either from a technical or business perspective, that are currently facing Hedera?
Yeah, I think and they're good challenges to have. I think from a technical perspective, as the DLT adoption curve goes mainstream, we'll need to have the right integrations and accessibility to different systems to support that. Like things like ERP, supply chain management platforms, layer 2s, really where the enterprise market is now, and how to connect those existing systems to Hedera. And we're already seeing the need for that with several of the use cases I mentioned before. And I think just, as the demand for network usage increases and we start seeing hundreds of TPS and thousands and tens of thousands, we'll need to scale out the infrastructure accordingly, which is a good challenge to have to deal with. And I know Lehman has talked about that recently as well. From a business perspective, I think it's really going to be staying focused and continuing to execute and differentiate ourselves in a way, differentiate ourselves in a market that's very busy and noisy right now, and continue to show ourselves as mature, both from an adoption and from a technical perspective, and to continue to build that story that's going to differentiate us from competitors. We've been, as you know, right, like by definition, we have a team that deals with the enterprise, that navigates sales cycles, because we made a strategic decision to work with enterprises. Some of our competitors don't have those teams. So I think we've done a decent amount, right, in the back end in terms of laying the foundations for adoption and doing that business development work. And I think it's just incumbent upon us to stay focused and continue to execute. But these are all good challenges to have, because they're both around meeting the scaling challenges as the network grows. From an overall Hedera perspective, I just say that, I think we've got to continue telling our story, educating folks on who is Hedera, why are we here, what are we doing, not so much in the context only of us as a company, but rather our community and our ecosystem and the kinds of things that are being built, by our community members, and how all of that's coming together. I think that's going to be critical.
Well, hopefully we can help you out a little bit there.
Oh, you guys are awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
Along those same lines, last question here for you, Azeem, last structured question anyways. There have been some community members who may work within larger organizations and could potentially benefit from distributed ledger technology. How would you recommend individuals like this begin the process of maybe introducing Hedera within their organization?
That would be great. And if it's just educational and it's starting from zero, we have a YouTube channel where there's great content. There's a Telegram chat, as you guys know, for the community. You can follow us on Twitter. We obviously have an amazing community of different people who love the project and are very active on Twitter and other channels. You should absolutely follow them. If you want to learn a little bit more on the technical side, you can find several white papers on our website. The Hashgraph white paper, HCS, HTS, information about data integrity, GDPR, different resources for different types of interests. If there's anything more baked than that, send them our way. We'd love to hear from them. Send them to our website, send them to our GitHub page or docs.hedera.com. There's actually a landing page on the website for people that want to indicate their interest and learn more, and our marketing team handles the follow-ups there. So feel free to do that. If there's an opportunity that's a little bit more, more baked than that and can move down the funnel, we can get someone in the BD team to take point. Feel free to reach out to me directly. I'm at azeem.malik@hedera.com. But we love hearing from people that want to learn more about Hedera and build on the network. So please don't be shy about reaching out.
Well, thank you again, Azeem. We really appreciate your time, and hopefully the community will enjoy getting to know you a little bit. By the way, I haven't seen you on anything else. Have you been any other podcasts or anything like this yet since you've been at Hedera, or is this kind of a...
Yeah, not like this. I've been on a few speaking panels and on certain topics that have gone public, but no, this is this is the first of what I hope to be many, different appearances like this.
Well, we're flattered and honored, and I hope the community appreciates that, this chance to get to know you a little bit better. And yeah, thanks again. Brandon, do you have anything else on our way out here?
No, that's about it. I do appreciate your time, Azeem, and a great interview.